What is up, and welcome back. My name is Bo, and I'm the TheKjnTowboater. Today I will be counting down my top 10 Nintendo 64 games. Just a heads up, this is my list. I'm not saying these are the best Nintendo 64 games ever. They're just my favorite due to nostalgia and how I felt playing them as a kid. Now before we begin, I'll go ahead and give you a brief history on the Nintendo 64. It was released in Japan on June 23, 1996, in the US on September 29, 1996, and in Europe and Australia on March 1st, 1997. And we all remember that video of that kid opening his Christmas present and getting the Nintendo 64. It was the successor of the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, and it was also their last home console to use ROM cartridges as its storage format until the release of the Switch. It was part of the 5th generation of consoles, and it was also part of the third console wars between Sony with the PlayStation and Sega with the Dreamcast, in which Sega would ultimately lose with the failure of the Dreamcast. Although Nintendo didn't win the console war, it didn't fully lose it either. They went on to create many more consoles. With the N64, the decision to stick with using cartridges instead of using discs like Sony and Sega, and their reputation for censorship hurting their chances to fully win the console wars of that time, it also caused some game developers to work with Sony for games, in turn giving Sony many PlayStation exclusive games. Even with all of that, Nintendo still sold over 32 million Nintendo 64 systems worldwide. I won't go into the mess of the 64DD, and I know that I didn't give it the full history of the console, but that's not what we're here for today. So let's get started with this countdown, and please remember once again, this is just my opinion, and like everyone else's opinions, everyone has them, and no one is wrong or right. And with that out of the way, let the fun begin. Now this game will definitely have some people saying, really? I know this is a very divisive game among the Mortal Kombat fanbase, and from the wonky controls, the difficulty, and the constant death traps falling to your death or enemies that you can just defeat reappearing and running up behind you just to knock you into another death trap ahead of you. But for all its flaws, the game does hold a special nostalgic place in my heart. It was a game that my mom bought my little brother, and we spent countless hours playing it and learning the controls and how not to die in the process of beating the temples. I must have run from Fujin so many times after defeating him, either dying by being sucked up into his tornado or staying just far enough before he exploded, until one day we realized that you can hold on to the ledge and Sub-Zero would just sway in the wind until it would stop. With the Nintendo 64 version, we didn't get the cinematic cutscenes like the PlayStation version had, but the pictures told the story just as well. Some of the enemies are easy to defeat, and some were just there to be pains in the ass of the person playing. Each stage has a boss to fight. You get to fight Scorpion, Fujin, the god of wind, the Earth God, Fire God, Quan Chi, and Shinnok, along with 3 sub-bosses in Shinnok's fortress, the assassins Kia, Jataka, and Serena, who if you spare after she says, "spare me," will help you defeat Quan Chi and then gets killed by Shinnok. She was definitely one of my favorite female characters in a video game at the time. I mean, just look at her. Once we found out the cheat codes for it, we started trying to beat the game from beginning to end as fast as we could. I mean, who doesn't like a good infinite lives code or no time limit code? We eventually found all the codes for the different levels as well, and used that to jump around to some of our favorite levels. This game definitely wasn't for everyone, and let me tell you, trying to record the footage for this game using an emulator, it was very rough. Although the controls were the same, it has been over 20 years since I played this game, or played any game on this system, so I'm a little rusty. I do love this game for the nostalgic reasons, and the memories I've made with my little brother playing it. They definitely can't be beat. Super Mario 64 was one of the releases alongside the Nintendo 64, and it was Mario's first venture in full 3D, and it soon became so many people's favorite Mario game. Now, we never owned the game, but we either played it because my mom brought it home from the video store she worked at, or we played it at my cousin's house and we enjoyed it. Now, while this wasn't my all-time favorite game on the 64, it was a great one to play and run around and play as Mario in basically an open world scenario. While it wasn't fully an open world, each world you jumped into allowed you to go in order of each mission, or you can get them in any order you wanted. Having Peach's Castle as the hub was great, and the fact that it saved our progress was even better. No more constantly repeating the same levels over and over again. What I remember fondly is the music. Each world had their own unique sounds, and Koji Kondo was the right man for the job, as always when it comes to so many of Nintendo's game soundtracks. I remember the feeling of adventure and fun of completing each world with finding every star, each time, and then the final time of beating Bowser, and feeling the sense of completion and success when finding Yoshi outside the castle after getting 120 stars. Once again, this wasn't my all-time favorite, but the memories that I made playing it with my brother and cousins were some of my favorites. Playing it again while making this video brought all of those memories flooding back and made me miss the 90s and the simpler times of being a kid. Now, from what I remember of Rush 2, wasn't any of the actual racing on any of the tracks, and there's quite a bit. You have Las Vegas, New York Downtown, Hawaii, New York Uptown, Alcatraz, Los Angeles, Seattle, Midway, Halfpipe, Pipe, Crash, and all of these have reverse tracks as well. But the last track that I didn't name is the one that I remember playing on the most, and that one is Stunt. Stunt is a great track with ramps and many other obstacles to launch your vehicle to get points, or just have fun and explode your car, and believe me, it will many times before you get the hang of it. The fun I had with my best friend Jason and my brother trying to collect all the keys to unlock things and collect all the Mountain Dew cans to unlock the Mountain Dew car, all while listening to the Red Hot Chili Peppers songs Californication, Other Side, and Scar Tissue over and over again. Those are just some memories that you can't beat. Many of sleepovers were had playing this game, and a few others that are on this list. Like a few other games on this list, we played this game and scoured the internet for cheat codes until we discovered them all. We then used them to have even more fun on Stunt and many other levels. But even with all the cheat codes on, getting the gameplay to this video was still hard. I can't tell you how many times I exploded. It was frustrating, but it was fun nonetheless. An emulator just isn't the same as playing the game on an actual Nintendo 64. I didn't let it ruin my outlook on the game. I know that it's still one of my favorites, and the nostalgia it holds from my childhood can't be topped. I think about that all the time when Californication, Other Side, or Scar Tissue comes on. What can I say about GoldenEye 64? For a movie tie-in game that was released years after the movie it was based on was released, it was amazing. But when I think about it, I think about the sleepovers at my best friend's house, his mom cooking fried pork chops, and him and I constantly battling it out in the multiplayer. It was made by Rare, and it was how I spent most of my weekends with my best friend Jason and my little brother Caleb. We beat the game on all difficulties and also learned many of the cheat codes. We liked the paintball mode and DK mode cheats, but what we loved most was the multiplayer. It was so much fun, going after each other in the complex, either using the proximity mines or the golden gun, but my favorite weapon was the RCP-90. It wasn't like your multiplayer games nowadays. You can't see what your opponents are doing on multiplayer games that are out today. Everything is online. But on GoldenEye, if you were good enough to concentrate on not only your box on the screen, but the other players' boxes too, you could dominate the whole deathmatch. Although no one would ever admit to cheating that way, but it happened a lot. I did like the remake on the Wii, but it just wasn't the same. Take me back to being 12, no responsibilities, just best friend sleepovers, enjoying being children, having friendly competitions, trying to best each other in a video game deathmatch. Those were the days. but trying to get the gameplay for this video wasn't easy. On the ROM, even with the USB N64 controller, it wasn't easy running around. I wish I had my copy for my N64 and was able to record some multiplayer action between me and my brother, but I don't. Yet. In the mid-90s, THQ and AKI were the publishers and developers to go to if you wanted your wrestling promotion game to be great, and there wasn't a better wrestling promotion than WCW, until Vince Russo ran it into the ground, but I digress. Revenge was a game that surpassed its predecessor, WCW vs. NWO World Tour. It featured AKI's proprietary grappling system, heavily improved graphics for the time, a championship mode, and a huge roster of real and fictional wrestlers. It was released in the US on October 26, 1998, and it was the best-selling wrestling game for the N64 console, and was the top-selling third-party Nintendo game at the time. It was also the last AKI-developed WCW game for Nintendo 64. The opening cinematic is great. It ends with the face of the NWO/NWO Hollywood, Hulk Hogan, and the face of WCW, although he was part of the NWO Wolfpack at the time, Sting, facing off in the front of the Jumbotron. The main menu consists of different modes. There's Championship, Exhibition, and Special Match. It also has Custom Change and Options. The Championship mode has 5 different championships to choose from: the WCW World Championship, the WCW United States Heavyweight Championship, the WCW World Television Championship, the WCW World Cruiserweight Championship, and the WCW World Tag Team Championship. The Exhibition mode has a single match where you can choose Player 1 versus CPU, Player 1 versus Player 2, or CPU versus CPU, and Tag Match, where you can choose from Player 1 and CPU versus Player 2 and CPU, Player 1 and Player 2 versus CPU and CPU, Player 1 and CPU versus CPU and CPU, Player 1 and Player 2 versus Player 3 and CPU, Player 1, Player 2 versus Player 3 and Player 4, or all the computers versus each other. Special Match mode consists of Battle Royale, which is you can choose between 4 and 40 wrestlers, and you can choose basically the same player select as the tag team matches. The last mode is a handicap match, a 2 versus 1 match, where you can choose from Player 1 and Player 2 versus the computer, Player 1 and computer versus Player 2, or Player 1, Player 2 versus Player 3. Finally, the arenas you can choose from to have the matches in are WCW Monday Nitro, WCW Starrcade, WCW Halloween Havoc, WCW Bash at the Beach, WCW Sold Out, and WCW Brawl 8. The runway and entrances are all the same, it's just the background and the ring mats that change with the name of each arena. This game has a lot more talking points than I thought. The last thing I'll touch on is the roster, which is huge. I won't go into the names of each wrestler, but I'll name off the factions. You have the NWO White, NWO Hollywood, NWO Red, which is the NWO Wolfpack, Ravens Flock, WCW 1, WCW 2, WCW 3, and WCW 4, along with the made-up wrestlers of EWF and DAW added by AKI. You can also edit the costumes and names of all the wrestlers as well. This game was great for its time, and I did enjoy going back and playing it on the emulator. One special thing they did was if no player picked Sting in the Battle Royale match, and he was the next one to enter, he would drop down from the ceiling like he used to enter on live events. The taunts were great as well, and it was fun to finally pull off the special/finishing moves. I will always remember the fan I was of wrestling in the early 90s. While I still enjoy it sometimes, I'm not as big of a fan as I was in the 90s. My little brother will call the WWE his soap opera now, but his fandom continues with the wrestling while mine went away like WCW and the WWF Attitude Era. What can I say about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater that hasn't been said before? From the music, the levels, the task, the skaters, to the competitions that my friends and I used to have playing this game, it made me want to be a skateboarder, but my clumsy ass could have never been a skateboarder. Developed by Neversoft and published by Activision, This brought skateboarding and Tony Hawk to the height of video game popularity, and when my parents got us that blue cartridge, my brother and I were sucked into a world of half pipes and grunge music. The career mode would give you 5 objectives to continue and unlock the next stages. They seem simple, but some weren't as simple as you would think, especially trying to complete some of them in the 2-minute time limit you were given. The high score ones were easy if you were able to land the tricks or balance yourself on the handrails and not bail. Collecting the letters to spell out skate were simple enough if you could find them. Destroying the different objects and finding the secret tapes were always some of my favorite things to do on each level. Besides Tony Hawk, if I'm being honest, I had never heard of Bob Burnquist, Bucky Lasek, or any of the other skateboarders on the game. I mean, besides knowing Tony Hawk and what the X Games were, I really didn't know much about skateboarding. But it was fun to be able to play as all these characters because of their different stats. Besides the main roster of 10 skaters, you were also able to unlock 2 characters, Officer Dick and Private Carrera. I won't go into the music too much, because if I did, I would want to show you all of the songs and would definitely get a copyright strike. But if you played this game, you know what I mean when I say that this music got so many kids, if they weren't into the scene already, into the grunge scene. The stages were unique. The warehouse, school, a mall, hell, even Roswell. Just doing free skate around them was fun, especially practicing to try to do the 900 or any of the other skater special moves. But replaying this game on the emulator brought back so many memories that I didn't even know I had. I truly don't remember bailing as much back then, but I'm so used to the controllers of today that controls of the past have a learning curve again. Even though I have the remaster for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 for the Switch, it doesn't beat going back to that blue cartridge and popping it in the N64 and playing with that odd controller. Now I'm aware this game may not be on many people's radar, let alone their top games. But when my parents got us the Nintendo 64 for Christmas, we didn't get Super Mario 64 like my cousins did. We got this game. My brother and I spent hours playing this game. Was it the best game? No. But the futuristic-esque design of the tracks, the design of the bikes, and the sounds were definitely unique. Developed by Probe Entertainment and published by Acclaim Entertainment, it was released in 1997 and recently just released on the Nintendo 64 channel for the Nintendo Switch. The gameplay was similar to any other racing games. Be the first one to finish in first place. You have a single player mode and a multiplayer mode. In single player, you can choose from practice, time trials, or shoot 'em up. And in multiplayer mode, you can choose from battle arena, head-to-head, flag race, or multiplayer cup. You have 8 regular bikes to choose from. They are Rays, Rana, Khan, Grimace, Muga, Jolt, Mame, and Apollyon. And they all have a range of stats. Grimace was the one bike we chose 95% of the time. There are also 2 unlockable super bikes, and they are Roach and Neon. Neon has all its stats maxed out, and its design looks sick. Each stage has 3 courses set in them. There's the desert, city, mines, canyons, and the space station. And there's a secret course as well. It's hard for me to describe the music style, but when I asked my brother how he would describe it, he said it's trance. And when I looked it up, that makes perfect sense. Trance is a subgenre of EDM, electronic dance music. To help you get first place, each bike has 3 speed boosts and a built-in laser to shoot your opponents with. But you also get weapons that you can pick up too. They are missiles, Morningstar, Homan missile, proximity mine, phosphor flare, multiple needle missiles, invisibility, ion side blast, invulnerability, flame exhaust, tractor beam, wally warp, power shield, rear missiles, mortar rockets, static pulse, laser limpet mine, and shield recharge. We played and played this game until we unlocked everything, and then we learned the cheat codes and we were able to get unlimited boost and used it to stay in first place. And you could barely make out the course when you're racing on it using the boost, but it was fun to do it again while doing the gameplay for this video. I really wish this game would get a remake or remaster because I would love to see it with today's graphics. I never played the sequels, but I still have this game from my N64 that I do still play sometimes. Like many of the games I play, this one holds up on the nostalgia of it. But it's not a real racing game like that will bring you back like Mario Kart. It is still fun though, and I will always love talking about it with another fan. We are now down to my top 3. This may be controversial to place Ocarina of Time number 3. Although this was my introduction to The Legend of Zelda in video game form, I watched that cartoon from the late 80s and early 90s, and didn't play the NES or SNES Zelda games until later on down the line. I loved this game, and if my number 1 wasn't released, this would have been my number 1. Developed and published by Nintendo, Ocarina of Time was the first 3D Zelda game, and still holds the highest rating on Metacritic, sitting at 99%. It was the first game to introduce the Sea-Zoras, a friendly race of Zoras, Ganon's Gerudo form, Ganondorf, and the Gorons. I literally immersed myself into this game at 12 years old. It was my birthday present and I didn't put down that controller. The cinematic at the beginning, exploring the world, the feeling of defeating the bosses of the temples, discovering the sages, foiling Ganondorf's plans, and just trying to 100% the full game will always be something I remember. As I get older, I've learned faster ways to beat some of the bosses, shortcuts, but it still doesn't beat taking your time and learning everything you can about the game when you first discover it. I mean, this game holds such a special place in my heart that I named my son Link, and he definitely knows where his name comes from. I remember pulling the Master Sword for the first time and being just as surprised as Link seeing him as an adult. Wanting to kill that damn fairy Navi for always saying,
"Hey, listen!"
or running through Ganon's castle as it's falling around you, escaping and thinking it was over, only to have Ganondorf transform into the massive Ganon and flipping out in amazement. Then finally beating the game only to realize that you lose your fairy after Zelda sends you back in time. Collecting the spiritual stones is fun, besides how tedious inside Jabba Jabba's belly is, but those are child's play compared to the temples. The Forest Temple is your first taste of what the game truly has in store for you. The Post Sisters sub-boss were pretty damn good, and Phantom Ganon gives you a good taste of how the end fight with Ganondorf will be with the Devil's Volley. I had a copy of the game that had the original chant in the Fire Temple. I wish I wouldn't have traded that copy in though. I digress. I love beating the crap out of Volvagia with the Megaton Hammer. The Water Temple, screw that temple. I hate it, but I love the Dark Link fight. The Shadow Temple. It gives you the first taste of the time traveling back and forth to learn the Song of Storms. And then you use it. And then you find out that you were the one that played it for the guy that taught it to you because of the time traveling. The Lens of Truth is a great tool if you keep an eye on your magic meter. Let's talk about that one nightmare-inducing creature, the Dead Hand. This thing caused so many people to have nightmares. It's creepy and scary and shouldn't have been in a kid's game. Now I could see it being in Twilight Princess, but it would have been even creepier in the Wind Waker 2. Bongo Bongo is such a good boss to face. It has you keep track of your magic meter and your arrows, all while trying not to be bounced around. The Spirit Temple uses the time traveling aspect to fully complete one side of the temple as a kid and the other as an adult. The Iron Knuckles kicked my ass a few times. Weren't expecting them to hit so hard. But getting the Mirror Shield and using it to beat Twin Rova, mispronounced that, is actually a pretty good mechanic for the game. But out of all of the temples, I would have to say that my favorite one is the Fire and the Shadow Temples. The final thing I will touch on is the music. It is downright amazing. Composer Koji Kondo did an amazing job putting you in the game with the music. From the lighthearted sounds of being inside the houses to the heavier tones the music gives you whenever you're speaking with the great Deku Tree, the music is amazing with every note that is played. Zelda's Lullaby, the Bolero Fire's Seria song, and all of these are great tunes that are just better when heard being played by the ocarina. This game holds a special place in my heart. I've always loved gaming, but this game made me fall in love with gaming on a whole nother level. It was my first adventure in control of Link, but it would be far from my last. I can't tell you how many times I popped in a CD or nowadays just go to Spotify and just listen to the original soundtrack and get taken back to the land of Hyrule. Not many games do this, but Ocarina of Time is one, and like I said, this is just my number 3. Star Fox 64, or if you're in certain regions, Lilac Wars, was developed and published by Nintendo, and it saw great success for the N64. It was also just like Star Fox on the SNES, considered the greatest game of all time. It was also the first game to feature support and be packaged with the Rumble Pack. Another gift from my parents, I remember playing this game, trying to figure out the different paths, get all the medals, and just defeat Andross, the real Andross. Discovering the warps in Sector X and Sector Y was a real surprise for the first time when I found them. Not knowing that whether or not I defeated a boss a certain way or failing to defeat them at all would change the outcome and course of was also a big surprise to discover. You're put in the pilot seat as Fox McCloud, leader of Star Fox. After his father was betrayed by one of his teammates and killed, your team members are Peppy Hare, Slippy Toad, and Falco Lombardi. Now I really don't know why, but even though I like the character of Fox McCloud, I always wanted to be Falco. Peppy is still constantly quoted by myself and friends of mine with the phrase, "Do a barrel roll!" Slippy reminds me of a lot of Navi from Ocarina of Time, with how aggravating he is. That's right, I said he, but he sounds like a she when he's talking to you throughout the game. There's so many times that I never wanted to help him whenever he was in trouble. But they all have their skills. Peppy is the mentor and gives you advice. Slippy analyzes the level's boss's shield. And Falco looks for shortcuts and alternate routes. You get your mission briefings from General Pepper and assistance from Rob 64 and US 64 in the Japanese versions of the game. He also tells you good luck before your missions and sends you down supply drops when needed. In certain levels, you receive help from Bill Gray, one of Fox's pilot friends, and Cat Monroe, one of Falco's old gang members, and I guess old fling. I mean, come on, look at her. I'm not a furry, but if I were Falco, I would. Never mind, she's a cat and he's a bird. Where was I again? Oh yeah, along the way, besides the stage bosses and minor enemies, you do have to face a rival team called Starwolf, led by Wolf O'Donnell, a longtime rival of Fox, Leon, I'm going to screw this up, Powalski, a chameleon who for some reason targets Falco, Andrew Oinkany, main antagonist Andross's nephew, who always goes after Slippy, and Pigma Dangar, a pig and the traitor that turned on the original Star Fox team, who always chases his former teammate Peppy. When it comes to these guys, if you defeat them on one level, they'll come back with new and improved ships, and if you don't defeat them, or only defeat a few before time is up, they'll come back before you take on Andross. Andross is the final boss, and you have two versions of him. Either a fake robotic version that is shown after the first part of the battle, or his true form, a massive brain and eyes that appear after the first part of the battle. Which Andross you fight depends on the route you take. Most of the time your team's in the R-Wings, fighter jets that can fly inside a planet's atmosphere or in space. You get 2 laser upgrades for them, and you start off with a single laser. And then when you get one upgrade, it turns into the double laser that fires green lasers. And when you get the next laser upgrade, it turns into a blue double laser. You also have bombs that you can fire as well. But if you lose a wing, you go back down to just a single laser. For some levels, you get to use one of the two other vehicles that were introduced in this game. The Landmaster, a tank that has the ability to hover for a certain amount of time and can fire bombs. And for another level, you get to use the other vehicle introduced to this game and only seen in this game, the Blue Marine, a sub with unlimited missiles that you use on the planet Aquas, which is an all-water planet. Each vehicle has their strengths and weaknesses, and all vehicles can lock onto enemies. I won't go into them in this video. I'm now just realizing I'm explaining this whole game to y'all instead of explaining why it's in my top 10. The levels are great and offer different challenges for the vehicles. I've always loved the Landmaster missions. There's one level that you fight a spaceship letting out drones and waiting on the middle to open up. Okay, you can't tell me that isn't an Independence Day ripoff. Just kidding, Nintendo. This is one of my favorite flying missions. The music in the game makes you feel heroic, especially when you complete or accomplish a mission. If you complete a mission, it means you've most likely missed clues, or you didn't eliminate a certain amount of enemies before you finished. But if you did everything you needed to do, which the game didn't tell you, that's right, they didn't hold your hands back then like they do today. You not only got the mission accomplished across the screen, but you got a medal that would appear on the level on the hub screen. Overall, this game with Ocarina of Time and my number one always give me the feeling like I'm back in my childhood room. Waking up early on a Saturday morning, eating Pop-Tarts, getting ready to watch Saturday morning cartoons, and play some Nintendo 64 once those shows are over. I truly do miss the 90s in my childhood. Star Fox will always be one of those games that gives me the sense of accomplishment no matter how many times I've completed it. And now here are some honorable mentions. If Ocarina of Time was the game that made me fall in love with gaming, Majora's Mask was the game that solidified that love. This game was the reason I continued to explore the worlds of every Zelda game for every secret, the reason I scoured the internet for more information when rumors of this game first started. People just called it Zelda Gaiden. Just like now, the internet was full of rumors when it came to this game being made. They had a year to complete it. It took them a little longer, but even with reusing assets, the team at Nintendo really put together an amazing game without it feeling like a rehash of Ocarina of Time. I love the fact that you get to ride Epona as a child, the fact that you can use different versions of the Song of Time to either slow down or speed up time, or to save your game and restart the 3-day cycle. Speaking of the 3-day cycle, at first I wasn't sold on it, but it forces you to plan out things you're doing, whether it's many of the smaller missions, to complete a temple, or to gain access to another area, or do one of the missions that you have to use all 3 days to do. Although there was a few times that I just let time run out just so I could see this. The transformation mask puts you in the shoes of a Deku Scrub, a Mighty Goron warrior, and a bass playing Zora, all by playing the Song of Healing over their grave, dying body, or being turned into it by the Skull Kid. This game gets pretty dark, especially when you're not just turning into a random Deku Scrub, Goron, or Zora. You're basically shape-shifting yourself into an actual character that many of the NPCs know. And let's not forget those nightmare-inducing transformation sequences. You can really just see all the pain and hear all the pain that Link is experiencing. The last transformation mask is the Fierce Deity mask, which basically turns Link into a god with a badass sword. The only issue with that mask is it can only be used for boss fights. And in order to get that, you have to collect all 20 non-transformation masks in order to trade to the Moon Children before the one wearing Majora's Mask will give you the Fierce Deity mask. Although there isn't as many temples as there is in Ocarina of Time, they're a lot bigger in size and scale than the ones in Ocarina. The bosses are all giants that the Skull Kid, under Majora's influence, has trapped in the temples with cursed masks. Once you beat the first temple, the giants teach you the Oath of Order, which once you free all 4 of them, you can play that song when you confront Skull Kid in the clock tower and call the giants. Woodfall Temple is a nice introduction to how the temples will work with the transformation mask of the area that it's located in, and knowing that if you want some extra power-ups, you must find all the Great Fairy pieces. This temple is unique to the Deku Scrub mask. I love the music and the sounds in this temple. The boss is pretty good looking, but I don't like how they changed up the way you have to deal damage to them in the 3D version. That eye popping out of the bosses is just weird to me. The Snowfall Temple is unique to the Goron mask. You'll need to roll and jump to some areas and also to defeat the boss of the temple as well. The Great Bay Temple is unique to the Zora mask because you'll need it to swim and walk on the water and to battle the boss as well. The most unique temple is the Stone Tower Temple because you'll need all the masks plus the Elegy of Emptiness to get to it, but to also get to the boss room as well. Speaking of the Elegy of Emptiness, look at this. Just look at how scary this face is. But to defeat that boss, you will need the Giant's Mask, which makes Link grow, you guessed it, giant size. The final temple is inside the moon. If you have all the masks, you can play hide and seek with the children wearing the temple boss's mask, and give them all the non-transformation mask, and then speak to the kid wearing Majora's Mask, and he will give you the Fierce Deity's mask, and you will have to fight Majora in 3 stages: Majora's Mask, Majora's Incarnation, and Majora's Wrath. They are all pretty easy with the Fierce Deity mask. The non-transformation masks all have a certain gimmick or a certain time of day for you to get them. There are a few that require you to do tasks throughout the 3-day time period to get them. The Couples Mask quest and the Romani quest are some of these. Like I said before, you have to plan in order to complete these mask quests. The masks are the Great Fairy's Mask, Cafe's Mask, Bremen Mask, Kamaro's Mask, Blast Mask, Bunny Hood, Keaton Mask, Postman Hat, Mask of Truth, Mask of Sense, Don Giro's Mask, Romani's Mask, the Garo's Mask, which had 2 different looks from the Nintendo 64 and the 3DS. I still rather the Nintendo 64 version. The Captain's Hat, the Stone Mask, the Circus/Troop Leader's Mask, the All Night Mask, the Gibdo Mask, the Couple's Mask, the Giant's Mask. And the Couple's Mask consists of the Sun Mask and the Moon Mask. You get a list of weapons. You have a metal shield as a child instead of a wooden one. You can now use a bow instead of a slingshot. You can also use a hookshot as a child as well. Most of these weapons will not be usable with Link's other forms. Instead of the Master Sword, Link can upgrade his Kokiri Sword twice. The first one is the Razor Sword. Its form is temporary and will break after 100 hits and will revert back to the Kokiri Sword after playing the Song of Time. But the second upgrade is the Gilded Sword, and it is permanent. But you will need to beat Snowhead Temple and win the Gold Dust in the Goron race in order for you to get it. The mirror shield that you get in Stone Tower is weird because it has a screaming face on it. The only issue I have is once you attain it, you can't switch back to the Hylian shield. Lastly, the music. Although most songs are the same, the new songs in the game are just as amazing as the ones in Ocarina of Time. And just like the Ocarina of Time original soundtrack, I can listen to the Majora's Mask original soundtrack all day, every day. The masks bring you into the adventure and make you feel like part of the world. I think out of all the new songs, Oath of Order has to be my favorite. I mean, there's nothing better than playing that song and seeing those big nuts with leaf beards and long legs run to your rescue and catch the moon. No, seriously, they look just like I described. Proof right here. The ending after you beat the game shows Termina on the dawn of a new day. It shows celebration, but it also shows characters grieving. The Deku Butler is in front of the Deku Scrub Husk on his knees crying. That is when you realize Skull Kid took the Deku Scrub's soul and turned it into a mask and cursed Link with it. And that's why the Butler said you remind him of his son. A bleak moment in all the celebration. You then see the Happy Mask salesman pick up the now uncursed Majora's Mask and walk away to God knows where. Like I said before, this game solidified my love for gaming. I mean, this game is my number one. It won't change. I even have a Majora's Mask tattoo. The amount of time I put into this game when I first got it to the amount of time I spent exploring all these years later. I have purchased this game many times over, either on the Wii, 3DS, or the Nintendo 64. I will always enjoy it, and starting a new game gets me excited like it's my first time playing it again. Yes, I still get really giddy whenever I play this game. I guess that's the reason this is my number one on the Nintendo 64. Probably my number one out of all video games, no matter the system. The excitement always feels new, even though it's a pretty linear game. It never feels like a chore replaying it. So this has been my top 10 Nintendo 64 games. Once again, this is my list and mine alone. Comment down below your list. I would love to know everyone's top 10. If you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe. Also, let me know which system you'd like me to do a top 10 for next. I can go from Atari 2600 all the way to PlayStation 5. If you like podcasts, go ahead and search Two Old Cajuns Nerd Out on YouTube. That's Cajun with a C. Or click the link in the description to listen to mine and Cajun Toy Reviews podcast. If you would like to message me and follow me, you can search Facebook, TikTok, or Instagram for TheKjnTowboater. I do stream on the 2 weeks that I'm home off of work. I stream Phasmophobia, Fortnite, Call of Duty. I plan on streaming more retro games too. But you can watch me and stream on TikTok, Twitch, or YouTube. Just search TheKjnTowboater for all of those. My wife and I have a React channel that we're working on getting more videos out on. If you search Allie and Bo's Home Theater on YouTube or click the link in the description, you can subscribe to us on there. Once again, I hope you enjoyed the video. I want to thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, and most of all, thank you for everything. And as always, I will see you in the next one.